What do you want to be when you grow up?
I have to restart my computer.
Gerber Life is accepting applications for their affordable Grow Up Plan. The Grow Up Plan gives your child $10,000 in whole life
Alright,
insurance.
tomahawk, ribeye, baby. No, I didn't drop it in dirt. Grow up. Smoke it at 225 until it hits 120. Grow up. Smoke it at 225 until it hits 120.
I have to restart my computer.
But the whole life could be a dream. If only all my precious plans would come true. If you would let me spend my whole life loving you, life could be a dream, sweetheart.
You're still tuned in to Bush Radio 89.5 FM, and this is the Grow Up Plan with myself, Madhav Prakash, and I'm joined today by a very, very special friend from across the Atlantic Ocean. Wait, actually on the other side, no? From the Pacific Ocean. Mihir Poddar is somebody I went to high school with, somebody I spent 2 years living about 50 meters away from, and is somebody I love dearly, dearly. So when Adrian suggested that I do an episode talking about my own experiences growing up and how I got to being an adult, learnings, insights, obstacles, etc., and I really didn't want to speak at all of y'all for 55 minutes, I thought what better to do than to ask me here to share in this space with me, to have a conversation with me about, very honestly what it's like being 19 in this very, very, very dynamic world, and of course, overcoming the obstacles that every young person does interact with in their growing up. Mihir, why don't you just introduce yourself?
So I'm Mihir, as Madhav just mentioned. I'm currently in San Diego, California in the US. And I'm studying aerospace engineering, which basically means that anything that flies, I'm learning how to make. So yeah, as Madhav mentioned, we've been together for quite a long time, living 2 years very close to each other is a different experience. I hope some of you guys get to do that at some point. It's an extremely weird experience. I've seen Madhav go from everything from like just wearing underwear, walking across his house, to like fully clothed, wearing like a full blazer on top, but shorts underneath for an online debate we did.
No, UWC was crazy for sure. So for those of you who don't know, the school I went to for my 11th and 12th standard, it was really weird. It was very much not like a typical school here in South Africa or even back home in India. It is part of this international movement of 18 schools across the world where they basically say, okay, let's take 200 really weird, quirky, dynamic, smart people from across the world, put them on a mountain together and see what they make of it. Mihir, that's how I describe UWC to people. What is your go-to, this is UWC? Do you just say like it was an international school?
It's hard to explain. It's always hard to explain because it's a place where the intention is to have diversity. And so there's going to be people from all types of places, hard to describe by definition, right? So people from like more than 83 countries is going to be like, for example, my own experience, right? One of my roommates was this like tech genius from Ghana, a different one from like a guy from a school from the gifted in Iraq. It's like, you never experience these kind of things outside of here, right? It's amazing. But yeah, it's a place for you to truly explore yourself. I think me and Madhav definitely did a lot of that and had fun. There's a lot of things that you'd experience there that I don't think you'd see in any other school.
Gerald, who was your Ghanaian technical wizard roommate.
Exactly.
We all have experiences like that. I had my first year I had a Syrian refugee and this super cool, I wouldn't say hunky dude, but like bro from Mauritius. And then my second year I had a very super religious Muslim guy who would wake up at 5 in the morning to pray, and had this very philosophical classical music listening Turkish roommate as well. It's a crazy, crazy experience, and it almost feels like I have homes, across the world. Everywhere I go, for example, I'm in South Africa, I'm here, and I don't know whether you know this, but Kayla, one of our juniors, she is also in Cape Town, and she invited me over for food. She showed me and my friends around, some like classic go-to tourist places, and it's been amazing having like those connects. And we're actually having a little Cape Town UWC reunion in the upcoming weeks. We're gonna get, there's 11 of us from UWC right now with the program I'm doing, and of course the national committee is the South African National Committee for UWC is also based in Cape Town. So they're going to connect us with their alumni, and all of us are going to get together and do a little barbecue type situation at a garden, I think. No, it's super, super, super cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and one thing that Mihir and I shared in at UWC was the college assembly. So the college assembly was our
Yeah.
student government, but it's very much not like, a classical student government that I would have experienced back home. Do you want to talk about what CA was like?
Of course, yeah. So the classical student government would look like, oh, like this person wants to convince a school to add this for students and try to be a student voice for this. But our college assembly was meant more to be like a parliament where we try to discuss solutions, try to collaborate with our teachers in order to improve things at the school. We're all sitting in different committees for the school that try to improve different aspects of life, like living on. This is a boarding school, by the way, in case we forgot to mention that.
No, where else were people from 200 different countries across the world living here? Just scattered in houses across India.
Go on.
But yeah, so that was the way we discussed things. We just tried to come up with solutions collaboratively and stuff. But it wasn't a great experience. There was a lot of like times when we were frustrated, or people were like frustrated, unable to come up with like truly uh functional solutions that we tried to like help solve our problems. But it was a great experience.
But I think the thread that continued throughout my 1 year in CA was there was always some sort of a rift with the school administration, right? And I think that is an issue that a lot of young people face. We have issues with authority, and that is just how the world is. This is the age to have a problem with your principal and have a problem with your teachers and your heads of academics, etc., etc. And sometimes that meant, being a little cold to them during committee meetings, but other times that meant organizing demonstrations and deciding, oh, I'm not going to go to classes and I'm going to, sit outside in the lawns and demand that these 9 demands that we are making of the principal be fulfilled. And that's actually what happened in, I think it was November of 2021, where my batch, my batch came together and we were like, we're not okay with the way things are working right now. We're going to make a manifesto with 9 demands that we want from our school principal. And the next morning, we all sat outside the academic block on the grass and said, no, we're not going to classes until you come and speak with us and fulfill all of these demands. That's how I remember it. There are people who remember it as being angsty teenagers. Okay, it was also angsty teenagers. Like, it was definitely angsty teenagers. But I think as like an exercise, it was definitely, promoting the democratic values of protest and... Okay, how do you remember it, Mihir?
Exactly. No, I completely. I know some people definitely viewed it as, oh wow, are we all just not going to school today? But I think it genuinely was a little bit more than that. Like going to teachers and truly saying what you want. Like I don't think most people would encourage you to do that. But I feel like in your VC you felt comfortable like being like, okay, this is what we want out of school, right? Can you please like make this happen for us? And that's essentially what we're doing. Even if it sounded all so grand and stuff like that, that's essentially what we're doing. We're trying to make our teachers understand us better and like do the same vice versa by just making our demands, right? So I think the CA was pretty like we try to do that a lot of time, but often, as Madhav mentioned, with the school administration, it does become a little hard to like be as students like know as well as they do, or try to convince them that like we know better, because that's not going to happen, right? We don't know better, maybe.
What would your insights be to somebody listening in right now who maybe wants to organize their own student protest? So Cape Town is, here just for some context, Cape Town is a city that's known for being very politically active. The University of Cape Town is here, and there's a lot of student protests that happen against, the blackouts, the scheduled blackouts in the city, or the government, or Putin, Did you know? Okay, interesting fact. Putin's trying to come to South Africa, and if he comes here, we have to arrest him. So interesting drama happening on the world stage there. But what would your takeaways be from our experience organizing a student protest to somebody who wants to do the same?
I think some of the insights I would have were that in the beginning, you should really know why you're doing the protest. There's no sense in doing it if you don't truly believe in the cause that you have in the first place. And secondly, find other people who are just as passionate about it as you are. Because if you find people who are just trying to jump on the bandwagon and just come along just because they feel like it, then what's the point, right? You're not doing this for any particular reason. And thirdly, I just want to say that like don't view it as like a chore. Like many people see the protest as like, oh my God, I have to do this and I have to do that. But like have fun with it, like do whatever you think is right. Go like believe in it and go hard on it, like don't give up. If you want something and make sure it happens. I think we did that pretty well. We spoke to them, we had a conversation, we made it happen. It worked out. Yeah.
Great stuff. No, it did work out for sure. I think my two biggest takeaways was number one, make sure everybody's on the same page. So it was 110 of us, I think, in our batch.
Exactly.
And that morning on the library lawn sitting with us was maybe like 85-ish people, right? And let's say 10 more were sleeping in their beds because that's what they like doing on Monday mornings. But the other 15 might not have been completely on the same page with all of us, and they actually like went to their classes and were waiting for their teachers to come, etc., etc. And that was actually one of the big issues that the administration had with the organization of this protest. Was they said it really seems like the voices of not everybody are being concerned, and there are students who don't agree with this. Stop portraying it as a batch of 2022 issue. So that would be my one takeaway: is make sure everybody is on the same page. And secondly, I think defiance needs to be like a last resort. Second last resort. Violence is last resort. Defiance can be second last resort, because another thing that was brought up to us was, hey, did you try writing down these exact same demands on a piece of paper and putting it on the principal's desk the day before? And the honest answer is no, we didn't. Right? Like, we were energized and angsty and wanted to demonstrate our need for change, etc., etc. But there might have been some avenues which could have dealt with some more exploration before we got to the point of, listen, we're not going to school anymore. And that was the two big arguments that I guess our opponents in this protest, which is the school administration and the teachers, had against us. But overall, definitely big learning experience, and it's one of the things that makes UWC special. People can say whatever they want, whenever they want, to whoever they want, without getting into much trouble for it. But speaking of trouble, people did get into trouble a lot. And Mihir, I think you were quite quite intimate with some of the people who got into the worst trouble during our time on campus. Without taking any names, you want to talk to us about what it was like being friends with people who used to get into trouble a lot?
I don't know if I would say it's any different being friends.
Wait, if you don't want to
Like,
answer, you don't need to answer.
there's gonna be people who want to do things that aren't are ethically right, or aren't something they should be doing at this age, or shouldn't be doing at all. But they're normal people. They're just like us. They just want to like have a thrill or want to do something else, or got addicted to something. It happens, right? It happens to the best of us. And they're people just like the rest of us, right? They were like some of my best friends. They were great people, but they make mistakes. Everyone's gonna make mistakes. I've made mistakes, but maybe their consequences were much harsher. So, without going into too much detail, some of them like decided to get involved with like smoking. Some of them decided like, okay, like I've had so much stress now, like let me try and like have some fun and like bring some alcohol on campus, was completely banned. Those kind of things, right? Uh, Although it might seem like a good idea at first, and like you might think, okay, it's like one harmless night, like what's the worst that's gonna happen? But think about it this way, right? Do you think one fun night is worth messing up like your high school for the entire, like for the rest of it, like 4 years of high school, college after that might get like jeopardized by this? Like, I completely understand. Like, even I wanted to have some fun once in a while and like do stupid things and like be super impulsive and just do whatever I want. But like, I realized like there's so many things that can go wrong with just one night of a mistake, right? That you have to be really careful. Like, think about what you're doing. And Madhav, you probably have experiences with this as well. You can talk about.
No, I was definitely also one of the troublemakers for sure. Maybe not with alcohol and smoking. Okay, just to be clear, Mihir and I are not saying alcohol and smoking is bad. We're saying that, maybe when you're in an institution or in an environment where stuff like that is regulated and you're jeopardizing your ability to succeed or your ability to do well in that environment, think about it before you actually go ahead and, make these decisions that have the potential of ruining it all for you. My experience with getting into trouble was weird because we never really knew what was happening during my process of getting into trouble. So I went to school during COVID, right? And I was caught without a mask on a couple of times in school, which typically wouldn't really warrant big trouble. Like, you'd probably get yelled at a little bit by a teacher, or maybe sent to, the head of student life's office to get a warning or whatever. I was sent to a committee of our principal, our vice principal, and like 7 other teachers and academic heads for what they called a disciplinary hearing, which was super confusing to
Yeah.
me. Made no sense to me
And
or
very scary.
really scary. No, for sure. I think like the mental health aspect of this is something we don't talk about a lot. I was in a really bad place when all of this was happening.
Sad. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether you like connected these two events in your head, Mihir, but do you remember when I was skateboarding and destroyed like half of my body?
Yeah, you have scars all over your body.
I
He had
still have
like
scars
bandaged.
all
He was
over my
bandaged
body.
up from his entire left side, his arm, body, leg, everything just bandaged. Like he couldn't even wear a shirt without feeling
I
uncomfortable.
couldn't.
It
I
was
had to like
insane.
walk around with my buttons open for a week. That was the night before my
Exactly.
disciplinary hearing because basically the thinking was I was with Gembo. Gembo was a friend of ours from Bhutan. I was with Gembo, and my disciplinary hearing was in 9 hours. And I was like, you know what, Gembo, I'm probably gonna be kicked out of school tomorrow. Might as well break the rules a little bit more, take our skateboards, and go down the hill to a part of the road on campus that we weren't actually allowed to go to at midnight. And I was filled with anger and frustration, and Gembo was also a little bit like annoyed by the whole situation, I guess. So we were just like, bad word it, f it, um, and yeah, that's how I injured myself because I was in a really bad place mentally, and that somehow translated to me doing risk-taking behavior, which resulted in me getting really badly hurt. The conclusion of the disciplinary hearing, which I still think was politically motivated, was they put me on something called probation, which meant that
Yeah.
I no longer I had to be a little more careful about what I did on campus, how I acted, because any more infractions, whether it be like an attendance infraction or
I
not
think
somebody's.
a little more is a little bit of an understatement. It basically meant that one mistake and you're expelled. It's just as simple as that. Like they realized that like it was more it seemed very harsh to most of us, but it was a consequence that such that if he made any further mistakes, he didn't deserve to be in the institution, is what
Yeah,
they
I'd,
deemed necessary,
I'd
which
be kicked
is
out of
very
school.
scary. And for think about it, right? For not wearing a mask, like I understand that COVID was a big deal, but that's a big consequence to have for not wearing a mask and being a little uncareful.
That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Purely psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Lying down on the couch.
What does that mean?
You're a nut. You're crazy in the coconut.
What does that mean?
That boy needs therapy.
I'm gonna kill you.
That boy needs therapy.
Granny Gazoo, let's have it, you. Now when I count three.
Boy needs therapy.
He was white as a sheet.
And he also made false teeth.
Avalanche is above. Business continues below.
Did I ever tell you the story about
Cowboys.
Midgets. The Indians and frontier psychiatry.
I felt strangely hypnotized.
I was in another world. The world of 20,000 girls.
rectangles?
Doing optometrist. A man with a golden eyeball.
And tighten your buttocks.
Or juice on your chin.
I promised my girlfriend I could.
The violin.
Frontier psychiatry. Frontier. 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 Frontier psychiatry. Frontier. Frontier psychiatry.
That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Purely psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Lying down on the couch.
What does that mean?
You're a nut. You're crazy in the coconut.
What does that mean?
That boy needs therapy.
I'm gonna kill you.
That boy needs therapy.
Granny Gazoo, let's have it,
You are still tuned in to Bush Radio. This is 89.5 FM, and you are listening to the Grow Up Plan with myself, Madhav Prakash, and I am joined today by a very, very, very dear friend of mine, Mihir Poddar, who is joining us all the way from San Diego in California. Today's episode, of course, we are talking about our own stories growing up, becoming adults, the struggles, the hardships that we've encountered over the way, and of course, the lessons, the insights we have gained about being grown-ups in this incredibly difficult to be grown up in world. We were talking about schooling, and I just started introducing the story of, when I was put on academic probation for allegedly misbehaving in high school. And I was, this was the end of my disciplinary hearing. The entire campus was very riled up about what was happening, but I was in a
very bad place mentally. I remember after I got that result, like after they told me at the end of the probation that I was going to be put on, at the end of the disciplinary hearing that I was going to be put on probation, I fell into a really bad, almost depressive state as well. I think for like a couple of days I was just like, okay, the only way I can survive is if I stay in my room and just study the whole time. I can no longer have a social life, I can no longer have friends. Over time, it became a little less. I became a little less vigilant about it because I realized that I could still be responsible and have fun on campus, and I went back to being a responsible member of the community that we did have on campus. But just about the mental health thingy, UWC was definitely a place where mental health was a big problem, right? A lot of people who suffered from depression and anxiety, a lot of people who just couldn't deal with the stress of being in a high performance, high stress environment like UWC. I remember one of the things we joked about, me, and I don't know whether this got to you as well, but we said that, oh, we all came into UWC happy, and then after our first summer break, we all came back with depression and anxiety diagnoses, which was true for me, for one. But Mihir, what's your experience with like mental health at UWC?
I realized that like as soon as you put in like as soon as everyone's happy, everyone's having fun, there's no like major pressures on you. It's easy to just be happy and easygoing and just like do whatever you want, right? But as soon as things get hard, as soon as like you realize like, okay, like I'm not doing this easily, like I can't just like slide by and like do everything easily. Then you realize that like there's so much more pressure on you. It's hard, like it's not easy. So definitely like you get like stressed, you get like really anxious. There's like deadlines after deadlines. It can be whatever. It might not be deadlines. It might just be like responsibilities or anything else. But just so many different things weighing down you can be pretty hard for someone, right? So
Have you ever
I
been to
saw that a
therapy?
lot.
Have you ever been to therapy, Mihir?
I have never been to therapy, no. But I can completely understand when a psychologist in my school once told us that like she thinks that every single student should go to therapy at least once in their life because everyone needs it. You need to understand how to deal with your emotion stuff. And that makes perfect sense. I'm so happy that like people are actually like, thinking about mental health because I feel like it's like it is a huge issue, not just at UWC. We mentioned it just at UWC, but like no, everyone must be experiencing this kind of stress, these kind of responsibilities, right? It does
No,
get
for sure.
like a lot sometimes, right?
And we're
But
talking about
I
how.
personally, like
Go on.
during specific parts, I had like, I was like very stressed and like struggling to keep up with it. But like some other people, right? They're probably experiencing other things, external pressures. Like it is hard to deal with. Like reach out to your friends, reach out to whoever. Like don't take it lightly. Essentially, is what I realized after standing there.
No, for sure. And we always talk about Gen Z being like, this super revolutionary generation. We're the most inclusive, we're the most aware, we know what mental health is, we, want human rights, yada yada. We're also the most like serially depressed and anxious generation. Which maybe there's also conversations to have about whether mental health is like an epidemic, whether it's contagious, whether it's like a rich people or white people problem. But I think the crux of it is that we're not doing very well and there are ways to do better and we just need to like find those ways. Some of those ways are therapy, some of those ways are there are medications you can take for mental health conditions nowadays that are extremely effective, and there are so many resources available online for anybody who
There's
does
free
need help.
resources. There's way to like self-help and stuff. And like there's a lot of new things that are coming up that help you to deal with it yourself, right? Like help yourself. But I think it's a great idea. Like you like how about you share some of your experience? You probably like know a lot of these as well, right? Do you know them?
So if anybody does need to reach out regarding their mental health, their depression, if you have been feeling really sad or anxious lately, the South African government does have a Department of Social Development. The substance abuse helpline is 0800 121314, or you can SMS 32312, and the CIPLA mental health helpline is 0800 456 789. Wow, they got a very cool number for the mental health helpline. Or you can also SMS 31393. Once again, that's 0800 456 789, 31393. But coming back to our conversation, my experiences with mental health. So I've never been a very like regulated person. I've always had, my highs are very high and my lows are very low. So I'm always either really happy and really like loving life or just not doing so well, which So I always say that I think having the low lows are worth it because my highs are so high. But sometimes I've really needed to seek help, or I've had thoughts or behaved in ways which I look back at and I'm not proud of, towards myself and towards others, and everything that does mean. But I've been grateful and happy to have the support system that I have had always, of my mother, who is always willing to listen to everything I have to say. Amazing friends like me here. Thank you for being there for me always. And of course, counselors and mental health professionals at my schools, and also outside of that, the helplines I did just read out. The helplines I did just read out are free, and you can call them 24/7. So do get in touch
I
with the
just want to I just want to add, right? Like you might feel ashamed or something like that, but don't. Like just to give you guys some context, right? Madhav is one of my friends who I think is perhaps the most energetic or most passionate people I've ever known, right? And if he can feel something like this and he wants to he realizes that the importance of mental health and stuff, then like all of us nobodies, right? Like anyone can feel it, anyone can feel bad and want someone to talk to or anything. So don't feel bad about doing it. You just become stronger. Don't you want to become strong? Don't you want to just improve and get better all the time? This is just the one better way to do it. I think
For
it's
sure.
easy and worth it.
No, 100%. Okay, too much depressing conversation me here. Let's lighten up the mood a little. Let's go back 19 years to when both of us were, inside our mother's uteri. Is uteri plural of uterus, by the way?
I have no idea.
Uteruses, uteri. Anyways, where were you born? How were you born? What's your family like? What is the earliest memory you have, Mihir?
The earliest memory? That's a hard question. But yeah, we've both, even though we ended up in a similar high school and are both going to college in the United States, right? I think our childhoods were so incredibly different. So for some context, even though I'm an Indian, I was born in the Philippines and I moved around a lot in Southeast Asia. So one of my earliest memories are probably being in Singapore and uh mess around the house and learning to sing Hindi songs for the first time, even when I could barely speak. Um, but yeah, so I grew up around people who weren't like me. And I think that was like a thing that changed who I ended up becoming quite a lot. And Madhav, even though he grew up majorly in India and moved around, he also had a completely different experience to the average person who goes to school. Do you want to share some of those, Meet?
Why do you think this, Mihir?
Moving from one city to another, going to boarding school even before 10th grade, so
No,
many
for sure.
different
But
things,
I'm
right?
very interested in what you said. Wait, let me finish with you first before you try to interrupt. So you said growing up around people who weren't the same as you helped shape a lot of your personality. What does that mean? Like, talk to me about what it was like looking like you when nobody else in your class looked like you, and how that has made you the person you are today.
So I don't think it is in any way negative because a lot of times it does happen to be negative. When people don't look like you get treated differently and sometimes worse, and you aren't treated like you want to be, right? But I think for me personally, I ended up being a good thing. Being different meant that I had different experiences to share. Like my home life was completely different to some of the different looking people that I had around me. And I felt that seeing such different people constantly, from white people to Asian people to everyone else, like Hispanics and stuff, it's completely like eye-opening, right? Because
Mm.
you don't realize something is different about you until you see that other people are doing it completely differently and they can think that's a different normal as well. Like having different normals is normal. I don't know that
No, for sure. That
idea.
makes sense. Did you ever have like an experience like we see in the movies where the Indian kid gets like a tiffin box to school and the food because the mother has made like a curry or something and then it has like a strong smell and everybody's like, "Whoa, what are you eating?" Did you have experiences like that?
Exactly. Definitely.
Really?
Some of my best friends, some of my best friends were Koreans. So I would bring like a lunchbox to school every single day that my mother made for me in the morning. And it would have some sort of Indian food, which would smell very different to what everyone else is eating, right? But I realized that although people would complain initially, it was something just get used to because what can you do about these differences, right? It's just a fact of life. So I would have although to me it would smell amazing, I would open my lunchbox and be like, wow, this smells amazing. I'm so excited to eat it. Whereas another friend would open his lunchbox and get like a gimbap of his Korean friend, and that would also smell completely different. And maybe it would smell repulsive to me, but he thought it was amazing. And so like seeing like realizing that like it doesn't matter, right? Like you're friends with them, why does that have to affect the way you treat them or the way you think of them? It was like a big change. Like it kind of became the new normal for us at least.
No, for sure. Speaking of Korean food, those of you who haven't been to Gogi Korean Barbecue in Newlands or the Kimchi restaurant in Woodstock, you need to go right now. No, great Korean. For some reason, there's great Korean food in South Africa. South Africa
Very
has
interesting.
amazing, amazing food. Here, you need to come visit. No, I also so I always looked like the people around me, but I think I behaved a little differently. My mother sent me a video yesterday of me from 2010 dancing to Waka Waka by Shakira while the World Cup was happening here here. 2 weekends ago, I went to the stadium, like the FIFA stadium, to watch a rugby match, like
That's
the
amazing.
the
That must
FIFA
have been
2010
that's
stadium.
so cool.
Isn't that amazing? Anyways,
Wow.
so it was me wearing like my mother's shawl, like scarf, as a skirt, and I think a bra of hers with like a lot of different jewelry and something black on my head to pretend that I had like long hair or whatever, dancing to Waka Waka by Shakira. And she found it because she had actually emailed it to all of my cousins and aunts and uncles back in 2010 apparently. We thought we'd lost the video, but we found it. No. So I was definitely a little weird when compared to other people my age, other 8-year-olds. I was 6, that's crazy. Other 6-year-olds. She also sent me a video of a day in my first grade. We had a day where everybody had to dress up as their role model in their class. As their family role model, right? So all my classmates dressed up, all the male classmates dressed up as their father or their grandfather, and all my female classmates dressed up as their mother or their grandmother or their elder sisters. And I was dressed up as a cousin of mine, Jyotsna Didi, as I call her, who was an actress and always wore pink nail polish and had long black hair. So I went to school being all sassy at age 8, trying to emulate Jyotsna Didi. So people always looked at me a little bit differently, a little bit weird. Thankfully, I was mostly in supportive environments where nobody would judge me for wearing the clothes I did want to wear or behaving or acting the way I did want to be. But growing up, it wasn't always the same, like UWC for sure was a very supportive environment, but you always encounter people who aren't willing to understand who you are, why you are, and one thing that I've been preaching a lot since coming here to Cape Town is practicing curiosity before judgment. And I say this because there's a big homeless population here in Cape Town, and even though I've been surrounded by homeless people my whole life, because Delhi is also big on the homeless population, I think my approach to them in a lot of ways came out of a place of judgment. In that, I questioned why they couldn't work hard and get a job, right? Which I now understand in hindsight what a weird way of thinking that is. So practicing curiosity, trying to understand before judging is something that I try to practice. And it's not something that was always practiced towards me, which I think is a part of the reason I try to practice it right now as well. Mihir, what about you? Did you ever have was there anything about you that led people to assume that you were a certain way or treat you a little differently growing up?
Oh, definitely. And I just want to say like that one soundbite, like practicing curiosity before judgment is great. Like it's something like to live your life by, right?
I work in media, Mihir. My job is to make sound bites that sound great. Go on.
No, but like it just that specific phrase is so helpful because it's so much more beneficial to make friends rather than enemies. And it's so much nicer too. Like you live life much more harmoniously and like you just have a better time. It's just an easy way to improve your own lifestyle, the people around you. But anyways, in terms of what uh you just asked me, like my entire life, until very recently, I used to be like very, very shy to the point where when I would when I would speak, people would have to like put their ear to my mouth and like make me speak up physically in order for them to hear me. Like that shy, I would like hunch my back and like I was like very introverted and couldn't like I didn't want to speak up because I didn't think people wanted to listen to me. And so people looking at that, right, seeing that, people automatically assumed the kind of person I was. They didn't think that I had did anything outside of like study all the time. They thought that all I thought about was like work and doing things that I was constant. It seemed like I was constantly stressed and stuff. But like those kind of assumptions were really bad for me because I ended up becoming like starting to become like that. If everyone around me starts thinking that, right? If everyone around you starts thinking that you're a specific way, I tend to become that way. but it wasn't true. I wasn't like I liked other things. I had so many other interests. I was doing other things. But then the only way to do that is to like express yourself and not feel bad about it, right? Like I realized that it wasn't important to think about what they thought I was, but more about being who I truly was. It
No,
might be a weird
100%.
way to think about it, but
No, no,
you definitely know
no,
what
no,
that is.
makes sense for sure. And what I was gonna say was a big part of my journey to, really truly embracing who I was, or the place where I felt the most myself. And I don't know whether music played the same role in your life, but theater for me was definitely like the thing which I was able to do, which made me, because on stage you're meant to be a performance. You're meant to dress up and you're meant to be all different kinds of ways which people don't get to judge because, you're not playing yourself, you're playing somebody else. And in some ways, I felt so invisible on top of the stage where I was actually being looked at by so many people. Like I didn't feel any judgment. I didn't feel any, negative eyes looking towards me, any buri nazar, as we say in India, which means like the evil eye didn't feel like it was on me. The evil eye didn't feel like it was on me. If you tuned into Sake Seasway on Thursday with myself from 12 until 2, we did speak to somebody from the Baxter Theatre about an arts and a theatre festival that is going on. The auditions and applications are currently open. Artists from across Cape Town can, submit scripts, concepts, ideas, and then the team at the Baxter Theatre will actually take those forward and turn them into full-length productions to be put up during March next year, when the entire full-length plays will be produced and put up. The Baxter Theatre is an amazing, amazing place. It's full of life and love and vibrancy and a lot of performing arts. And like Mihir said, if you have ever been, curious about theatre or film or acting, the stage is something you should definitely explore. It teaches you a lot about yourself, about your limits, what you can do, what you can't. But what theatre was for me, maybe in some ways music was for Mihir, right? Do you want to maybe tell us about your own musical prowess? I'm trying to think of whether I've actually legitimately seen you play or sing. Have I? I don't think so.
Yeah, I haven't performed in front of an audience in like a few years now. But
Why?
before that, uh, I would say just like a loss of confidence. I never lost my love of music. Never like it's never that I didn't want to. It just felt like I wasn't good enough anymore to like be as like expressive and be as confident the way I was playing and like essentially just like flex on people. I couldn't do that anymore, and I felt like bad about it. So I just said like I quit it essentially. But I used to play piano for many years. I started picking up the guitar before that as well. And uh, I like it's insane. It's amazing. Like I don't know how else to put like exploring music. There's honestly nothing like it. It's genuinely like out of body experience where like when you start practicing, it might
Okay,
seem
sorry.
like
Say that sentence. Say start
you start
from
to
practicing
emulate
music
tunes. You start learning different types of things. You can learn the
or
most
exploring music.
like
Start from
some
exploring
popular
music.
pop songs you like
Exploring music. There's
listen
honestly
to.
nothing
You can
like it.
learn
You said, I
classical
think,
music from
right?
many hundreds of years ago. There's so much option. There's so many things to do with music, and there's so much creativity to go with it. Like play with your friends, play alone, like create your own music, produce music using like softwares, play music on an instrument, sing yourself. There's so many things to do. There's so much to explore that I felt that music was perhaps one of the most creative things that exists. Everyone enjoys it. I haven't found a single person who doesn't generally enjoy at least listening to music, not if nothing else. And I felt like almost happy to just be part of it, like help people like maybe play piano alongside someone else who's singing or accompanying other people while they play their own things. I don't know, it just felt like a great experience just to be part of someone else's musical
For
experience.
sure.
Definitely. I've been listening to Afrobeats recently, and like the way it just makes you want to dance and makes you want to get up and just start moving. It's just an amazing experience. There's nothing, like literally nothing like it. And
For
that's
sure.
what like music makes you feel as well, like you just feel happy. You instantly like start to emulate the mood of whatever you're listening to. And like I just think that's a really beautiful effect that something so simple is but so beautiful can have. And everyone should like at least try it at least once.
100%. So when Mihir and I were not doing theater or music and not studying, a lot of our time was dedicated to sports. We've both had our different sporting endeavors. leading up to being 16. And we kind of both again, sporting also took a backseat when we turned 16, and we'll talk about that just a bit. But just for my own history, my mom used to encourage me to try new things the whole time, right? So I went to tennis classes and I went to hockey classes and etc. etc. And the one thing that really stuck with me was roller skating. So at 10-ish, I started taking roller skating classes and I got really good at it. I was number 2 in my age group in my entire state, and my state has 200 million people. That's 3.5 times the population of South Africa, and I was the silver medalist in the state championships, and I won a bunch of medals for skating as well. I was I was super sporadic. The reason I quit skating was because my teacher had an injury and then couldn't come to classes for a week, and then I sort of just gave up. It could have been a thing if I had continued. But after that, my thing was basketball. So I was on my school team. I qualified for the states and actually represented my city in the state championships. So basketball was my thing, and I remember going to school every morning at 5 a.m. for practice. Our teacher promoter, God bless you, who was the absolute best person I've ever met. He always supported us in our journeys, and sports is a big Sports is a big part of life in Cape Town. The rugby finals are coming up next week. I'm so excited. I was there for the quarters and the semis. The rugby finals are happening in the stadium, in the Cape Town stadium, the FIFA stadium.
Right.
Yeah, and it's 60. It's going to be at least 60,000 people. Every time there's a new match, the record gets broken to how many people have, because this tournament for some reason is really huge. Not that I knew anything about rugby before coming here. So sports has been an important part of my life, and even though, from 11th, 12th grade and during my gap year, it sort of took a back seat, I did intermittently start going to the gym. I've been going to the gym pretty consistently for the past 2 months here. Looking a little bit bigger. I think you just always feel so good after exercising.
So for me, my sport was swimming, and I've been doing it for a couple of now. I just love that feeling. When you jump into the water and your head goes underneath the water, there's a sense of calmness that comes out to you. And there's nothing like it. You can't imitate that with anything else. And you just love swimming. You just keep going. You just keep on using your strokes, keep on kicking. You'll end up reaching either side. I love focusing on the technique. It was incredibly hard at times, and you almost feel like throwing up at some point because it's so hard at some points. But swimming was my sport. I would also there's something about doing sports and feeling the slight pain or pushing yourself with a team. If you can find a friend to join with you, if you can find a team to join to play team sports, whatever it is, doing it with people just makes it so much more fun. You guys might experience the same pain together. You guys both might feel like quitting, but through the competition, you guys set to keep going. It's just an amazing experience, and if you can find a friend to join you, whatever it is, running, swimming, playing rugby, playing football, whatever it is, just try doing it. If you enjoy it, then great.
Hope when you take that jump, you don't feel the fall. Hope when the water rises, you built a wall. Hope when the crowd screams out, you're screaming your name. Hope if everybody runs, you choose to stay. Hope that you fall in love and it hurts so bad. Hey, the only way you can know, you give it all you had. And I hope that you don't suffer, but take the pain. Hope when the moment comes, you'll say, I did it all.
Good afternoon, Cape Town. You are still tuned into Bush Radio 89.5 FM, and this is the Grow Up Plan with myself, Madhav Prakash. I am today in conversation with somebody I would say is my best friend, all the way from San Diego, California. Mihir Pottar is somebody, I went to boarding school with, somebody who I trust with my life, and we are today talking about our own experiences growing up, being young students, young professionals, young lovers in this extremely dynamic 21st century world with the internet and with mental health and with sports and stuff like that. So we were talking about sports when we did cut off for that little short song break. The song that was playing was I Lived by One Republic, and the reason I played it is because I wanted to talk about graduating and life after school next. And this was the song that my class sung during our graduation ceremony. So I'm going to continue playing the instrumental of that song for just the next few minutes, because I'm feeling the vibe. I'm missing my juniors. Actually, today, the 20th of May, is when the batch that's one batch below us is actually graduating, and that graduation ceremony is going to be live at I think it's 11:30 a.m. SAST, but I'm going to be watching that. But going back to last year, May is when the both of us graduated, and that did mean that it was time for university. So I didn't take the conventional route. I thought I was really cool, and the fall of my senior year, I applied to Harvard and Stanford and Yale and Princeton and all these super hi-fi, fancy, expensive US colleges, and I got rejected by all of them. So I sort of didn't have like a higher education option to go to during the year after I graduated from high school. That was not the case for Mihir. Mihir, who is the coolest, smartest person I know. Mihir, tell us where you are and how you got there.
So, I'm currently in a university called the University of California in San Diego, and I'm studying a very different type of major that most people probably don't know much about, called aerospace engineering, because I decided that I'm interested in everything that flies, where it goes to space, where it's aircrafts, drones, all that kind of thing, right? And but getting here was not like very easy. Nobody tells you much about the process of applying to colleges. Nobody tells you much about how like weird it is to try to sell yourself to not sell yourself, like make yourself seem like a good applicant to all these colleges when they want things like not just your grades, because that's the obvious one, right? Like you need to have good grades, you need to like do well in school, but you also have to have essays, you need to do like have extracurriculars or things outside of school to make you interesting. It's like nobody tells you about this until, oh wait, now you need these to apply, right?
Honestly, if you seek the opportunities, they will come. There's plenty of opportunities for young people today, and we have the resources to find them. So, start Googling, start creating an online profile, start, networking with people on LinkedIn. There are endless opportunities for you to get exactly where you want to go, and you don't need to go the traditional route of, matriculating and then getting into a 4-year university, a 3-year university, and graduating with a degree. But I did apply to schools across the world again. I applied to schools in the UK, in the US, in Hong Kong, in France, in the Netherlands, and I was a little more successful this time, maybe because I took the time out, to build who I was, to figure out what I wanted and add some clarity to my voice while I was applying. And I will be heading to California, where Mihir is, this upcoming September, to a university called Stanford, which is in Palo Alto. It is where a lot of the super cool tech entrepreneurs and startups have come from. A bunch of these like big tech companies started in Stanford dorms or garages of Stanford undergraduates. So I'm super excited to be a part of that environment. But Mihir, since you have like 1 year of a head start on me, what should I expect? Like, what is it like being a Californian university student, if that makes any sense?
Honestly, I love it here. There's nothing like all the things you see about California are true. You'll see the most chilled, relaxed people here. Like going to the beach is normal, like every single day. You'll see uh you see everyone from like the people who are like extremely into technology and like want to do something and like, create something of their own. Um you see people who like love surfing. Like you see people who like love everything to do with having fun in life. You see people who are extremely invested into academics. I feel like seeing that wide variety of people in just one institution, one place. You might even see them all living together, but living completely different lives. It's just a super fun and uh, like energizing thing to see. You know, all the different routes you can go in life. And being for the in your first year in college, you might be covering some of the like things you've already done before. It might be some of the courses might be easy, some of them might be much harder because obviously university courses, so meant to be hard. But I feel like you'll definitely enjoy it. You'll find people who are like much more experienced than you are to learn from because
Uh-huh.
like oftentimes in high school you don't get to interact as much with the people who are older than you because you're in the same class with the same like age people. But coming here, you interact with much more. Professors are so smart. It's amazing to learn from them. And like it just feels like uh, in university, it's exactly what you make of it, right? As soon as you decide to join these particular organizations and like build things, like for example, I joined a student organization that's trying to build rockets, and we're trying to build the first ever collegiate self-landing rocket right now. And like
You're
that's such a
crazy.
fun experience, right? So thank you. So like you'll definitely have those kind of experiences. Just go and search for them, like you said, right? In college, it just everyone's around you is going to be interested in different things, and just learn from each other and learn like just keep going. It's going to be an amazing first year for you.
No, I'm super excited. But you said it's whatever you make of it, right? What are you making of it, and how
Exactly.
are you making that of it?
So for me, since I'm interested in like engineering and tech, I decided like I want to use college to like learn how to do everything that I want to do. I want to learn how to make what I want to make and like just go ahead and do it. You know, there's so many resources that you'll find. Like I started 3D printing and like making simulations for the first time when I came here. I learned how to like I'm starting to learn how to conduct like academic research, is a very interesting thing to do. And in college they teach you in a very different way where like they're gonna teach you from the ground up, and you might feel like okay at first this course seems so easy, they're teaching us like the basics, and then suddenly they'll speed up, they'll give you homework like very fast, and you have to like learn at the pace that they want you to, right? Do your own time, like work in your own time and learn things. But if you're able to manage the work, it's gonna be it's super fun. You have to ensure they do that, make sure you don't party too much. But it's great, it's amazing. What are you looking
And
forward to about going to college?
Ah, honestly, like the education, and that sounds really weird to say. But I miss school. I really miss
You're
school.
a
I miss
nerd.
I miss going to classes and learning things and having assignments. But what I also think I'm most looking forward to is like the routine, because being on a gap year has
Right.
been great. But it sometimes it gets a little too dynamic for my liking. You know, I never have a wake up time or
Right.
a going to bed time. I never have like, except for now when I have like a job. I've like it's really been impossible to regulate meal times or sleep times or going out times, and I'm looking forward to having like a okay, I need to wake up at X amount of time because I have a class to go to, and then I have a club meeting afterwards.
Right.
So that's something I'm looking forward to as well. Also, like the networking, like there's going to be no
Yep.
shortage of really cool people at Stanford for me to make friends with
Exactly.
or to work with, and to like squiggle my way into some funding and squiggle my way into some work opportunities, etc., etc. But so
Exactly.
go
I
on.
just want to say, like, that's the perhaps the most fun and exciting thing about college. Like meeting such amazing people all around you, whether it's your peers, people older than you, professors, graduate students. Like you meet a lot of them all the time, right? And if you like put as much emphasis into like understanding them, like becoming friends, just having fun, learning from other people, it becomes really fun. Like it may sound kind of nerdy to say like learning is fun, but it truly is. Like when people are as passionate about things as you are, and you will find people like that, it becomes a fun thing you guys share together and you guys like have fun doing together, which is like a great experience.
Absolutely. Mihir, we are running out of time, but since you've already
Right.
spent a year in college, applications to South African universities and TVET colleges are currently open. What are some
Oh
tips?
wow.
What are some tips you would give to, incoming college students about how to take the best out of university, how to make the best of the colleges they go to?
Okay, firstly, being just in my first year, I realized the best thing to do right now is to explore everything, right?
Mm.
Whatever I think I might be interested in, I just want to try it out. Because like in your first year, nobody's really expecting you to do anything insane. So might as well use that time to like broaden your horizons, learn about what things you can go into, what you might be interested in. And like me personally, I've had a lot of fun doing that, trying out anything from joining a dance team to
Oh, really? Were you in a dance team?
I like auditioning for a dance team. I didn't end up doing it and stuff, but like things like that. Like you do all sorts of weird things, but it becomes really fun. Like if you really like enjoy learning new things and trying new things, like college is the best place to do that, especially in your first year. Go into it with an open mind. Be ready to see people who are not like you and like studying completely different things. Like be open to even changing your major if you feel like it, and just uh like enjoy the experience, explore, like use your first year to explore. I truly agree with that understanding.
No.
So why should you have listened to the past hour of Mihir and I talking about our lives and talking about our histories? I think just the very crux of the Grow Up plan is me and Mihir are 19. We don't know what we're doing. We're still figuring out as well, which is exactly what most of you listening in right now are doing, figuring it out. Struggling with things like mental health or career choices or education or authority or sports. And we have been through a lot of that a lot more recently than maybe some of your teachers or parents have been through that. But we're doing pretty well for ourselves. We haven't figured it all out yet, but we are, I would say, happy. I would say seeking opportunities, successful in university, trying to make the best of trying to make the best of everything that comes our way every day that we do have the honor and privilege of living. And I think that's the most you can ask of a 19-year-old. I think the second you start expecting greatness and start expecting happiness 24/7, that's where a lot of the problem is. But Mihir, thank you so much once again. Any final words from you in closing before I do wrap up the show?
Now I just want to say, even though we ended up giving like, I don't know why we ended up doing that. I don't know who we think we are for giving so much advice, but we don't know what we're doing either. Just go out, explore, have fun, try to find the things you're interested in, whether it's music, sports, like engineering, sciences, whatever it is. Just have fun. I think that's the best way to live life, at least. And I don't know, like whatever works for you, just go and find it. It's gonna be an
Great
amazing
stuff.
time.
Great stuff.
Mihir's Instagram is at mihir.potdar. That's MIHEER.POTDAR. And Mihir, of course, is also on LinkedIn, where you can see more about, his... He undertalks himself a lot, but he's done some really cool stuff in life. He's making faces at me. We're on Zoom right now. He's making faces at me because once again, he's trying to undersell himself, but I'm not going to let that happen, Mihir, because I love you and you are the best, and I'm looking forward to seeing you very, very, very soon.
Renato does have some amazing tunes lined up for you coming up next, so you can keep it locked to Bush Radio 89.5 FM. This has been the Grow Up Plan with myself, Madhav Prakash, and you can catch me next Saturday from 3 to 4, and of course during the week from 12 all the way up until 2, where I do co-host Saki C's Way, Building the Nation, Bodhi Nasi with Jasneen. So keep it locked in to Bush Radio 89.5 FM. The Dankish is next.